Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the case of Shanda Vander Ark. Shanda Vander Ark is currently on trial for the death of her son from hypothermia and malnourishment. It was reported that there was a long-standing pattern of abuse and torture. His 20-year-old brother Paul Ferguson is also facing charges related to the death of Timothy. What we're going to be looking at today is the body language and behavior of Shanda Vander Ark while she's on trial. A couple of quick things before we get started. One, I do want to remind you that this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions based on publicly available information. In addition to that, I wanted to let you know that I do have a course on body language on my website at drgexplains.com. There's also a link in the description below. Last thing before we get started is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go.
The things they said about how well you did in school and all those things, were those all true?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't want you sitting there and regaling this, but the things about cum laude and going to law school, all that stuff is true.
It was magna cum laude, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's go back to the very beginning.
One of the things I do want to comment on is her general appearance. The long braids over her shoulders. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not being critical, but it's unusual. When you think of someone who's going to become an attorney, her appearance is a little bit different than you would expect.
When did Timothy come to your care?
May of 2021.
Prior to that, who had physical and legal custody of Timothy?
My ex-husband.
Okay. And when he sent, and how did it happen that you ended up with custody then?
My ex reached out to me stating that Timothy he could no longer handle him, that he was pushing his buttons, and that he needed to send him to live with me.
All right. Now, as we look at the body language, watch her eyebrows here. Now, I talk oftentimes about we raise our eyebrows when we want people to focus on our face. So oftentimes when you watch people's eyebrows, that lets you know what they think is important. So far she hasn't done it much, but she does right here. Watch this.
How did it happen that you ended up with custody then?
My ex reached out to me stating that Timothy he could no longer handle him.
All right. So the fact that her ex could, quote, no longer handle him, that's what she wants people to focus on. So she's, I believe, going to be focusing on how bad Timothy's behavior was. We heard this in another trial not too long ago, the Boy in the Box trial with Timothy Ferguson. I don't know if you all saw that, but it was a very similar type of argument.
They're all living in your home, and then Timothy joins you, correct?
Yes, sir.
When Timothy's joining you, did your ex-husband ever make any effort to transfer legal custody to you?
We discussed it, but he never did actually sign anything, no, sir.
Okay. And without legal custody, how do you get Timothy into school?
You can't.
And without legal custody, how do you get medical treatment for Timothy?
You can't.
Okay, so I do want you to keep, now this part isn't body language, but I do want you to keep in mind, when you're saying, he didn't give me legal custody, therefore I couldn't do these things, this is a way to externalize blame. Well, I couldn't put him in school because his father didn't give me custody, but she's also not saying that she pursued custody and she fought for it and that she needed it. She was working on becoming an attorney. This is not someone who can't figure these kinds of things out. People figure this stuff out every day. So as we're seeing right here, blame is immediately getting deflected.
I have severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder combined type. I also have sensory processing disorder and OCD. And then after my husband's stroke, as a result of my husband's stroke, because I viewed him, I wasn't in the room when he had the stroke, but I was there right afterwards. And so I developed post-traumatic stress disorder with disassociation from that. The only medication that I was on was for the ADHD.
All right, so now she's talking about PTSD and dissociating based on PTSD. I'm going to see how she uses this because there are very specific rules around dissociation and post-traumatic stress. Let's see if the way that they talk about it actually makes any sense.
Okay, there are leg irons discovered in your home. Were you aware of those?
I was aware that Paul had them. You actually could look on my Amazon.
So they're asking about leg irons that were found. Obviously, there's many questions related to the torture they're describing that are going to be asked, but watch her reaction after this.
Let's talk about some of the things that have come up in this case. There were, okay.
So after he said, let's talk about some of the things that come up in this case, you'll notice as she's drinking water, which we oftentimes do when we get nervous because our mouth dries up, it calms us to have something touching our lips. Her hands start shaking.
There were,
Now, what that suggests is a lot of adrenaline coursing through her veins right now, knowing this is going to be very hard to discuss.
okay, there are leg irons discovered in your home. Were you aware of those?
I was aware that Paul had them.
All right. Right after she starts talking about the leg irons, he asked, were you aware of those? Watch her face right here.
Discovered in your home. Were you aware of those?
I was.
So oftentimes we close our eyes, one, when we think about things we don't like, and two, because we don't necessarily want to see the reaction of the person we're talking to. So as she's talking about this, she's closing her eyes briefly because this is going to be a hard thing to discuss.
Aware that Paul had them. You actually could look on my Amazon. Paul had the option to do payment on the Amazon as well as mine, and Paul had actually ordered those under his account.
Okay, you did not order the leg irons?
I did not, no.
Did you ever use them?
No, sir. No, I never instructed.
Let's be in specific. Did you ever use them with Timothy?
No, sir.
Oftentimes people struggle to say things that are deceptive, especially when they first start talking. As they keep going, as they lie more and more, it gets easier and easier. But as you could hear, when he first asked if she had used the leg iron, she said, no, I never instructed. Then he asked again more directly, and she said no. But why she had said that she never instructed first is curious. Watch this interaction again.
Order the leg irons?
I did not, no.
Did you ever use them?
No, sir. No, I never instructed.
Let's be in specific. Did you ever use them with Timothy?
No, sir.
Okay.
And you saw a big swallow after that. Oftentimes we do that when we're feeling stressed or anxious.
No, I never instructed.
Let's be in specific. Did you ever use them with Timothy?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you ever notice any bruising on Timothy's wrists or legs that might be attributable to the use of leg irons?
No, sir. I never saw anything like that.
You heard Paul talk about plastic ties. What was that about?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
I don't know why we would order. I mean, I saw the ties. I don't remember ordering them. I don't know what happened.
So her expression is almost exaggerated because she wants people to know how confused she is, because that's the look she's trying to give, is a look of confusion, and it seems almost too much. You'll see what I mean.
Ties. What was that about?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
I don't know why we would order. I mean, I saw the ties. I don't remember ordering them. I don't know what happened there.
You're going to say I don't remember a lot, aren't you?
Unfortunately, yes, because of the dissociation. Well, I guess there's different forms. Somebody told me this. I did not find out about the PTSD and the disassociation until about 7 months after my husband's stroke, even though it had been going on since the stroke.
So the prosecuting attorney is getting ready to object, and they're going to take a break because of this. But let me explain a little bit about why he would need to do that. Because she's basically saying that she has PTSD with dissociation, which is going to give her huge gaps in memory. All right. Post-traumatic stress disorder, the purpose of it, the reason the body has post-traumatic stress disorder is to keep us safe. Sometimes that leads to gaps in memory around specific situations. So certain things may trigger dissociating, but it's not like this. It's not, I ordered a bunch of stuff on Amazon last night that's going to help me torture somebody, but I don't remember doing it. Post-traumatic stress disorder is about protecting yourself. So at times, if there are gaps in memory, it's going to be specifically related to post-traumatic triggers of some kind. So just saying, I have a really bad memory, I have huge gaps in memory, and it's because of my PTSD, that is not at all how it applies. I have not evaluated her. I have no idea what her actual diagnoses are. But just as a general rule, that's not how PTSD works, y'all.
Starting right after my husband's stroke, I started experiencing episodes where if you've ever passed out, like the world closes, you get tunnel vision and the world closes in on you until you completely black out. It felt like I was blacking out, but I didn't actually pass out. And the events that happened after that, I have no idea of what happened. I don't remember it. I don't know.
Okay.
And this happened anytime I got even a little stressed.
So,
All right. How convenient this is. Because once again, I've never heard dissociation described in this fashion where you're getting tunnel vision and you're blacking out and then all of a sudden you forget things.
We had tried multiple other discipline methods, and he thought maybe that would get him to stop misbehaving.
okay.
He suggested it to me, and I was so wrung out, I was willing to try just about anything.
All right. Were you aware of were you aware that this hot sauce was purchased online?
Yes.
Do you know why it was purchased online instead of going to Meijer and picking up a bottle of hot sauce?
Well, I didn't have time to go to the store. I mean, our groceries I did the grocery delivery through the Walmart app or through.
One thing that we see from her consistently is showing over and over again that she doesn't accept responsibility for literally anything.
Why did you order this particular hot sauce or these particular hot sauces? What do they have in common?
Because I think it was the same brand, the same one. Because it was hotter than what you could usually get, and because Timothy he liked spicy food.
Okay.
He loved spicy food.
All right.
So they're going to try to dissuade this child from misbehaving by using hot sauce, and yet he also loves spicy food so much that they have to get hot sauce that they can only order online. The logic of her responses are incredible.
And the same one. Because it was hotter than what you could usually get, and because Timothy he liked spicy food.
Okay.
He loved spicy food.
What she's very good at doing is keeping her face very plain or looking very confused when talking about herself, and then when talking about the torture or the abuse, then all of a sudden getting very animated. Wow, this is really something that was necessary. Look, he just loved hot sauce. So you're going to see a contrast of behavior depending on who she's talking about, whether it's herself or somebody else.
How do you know you like spicy food?
That actually started before he was ever born. Before I got pregnant with Timothy, I didn't like spicy at all. I mean, nothing. No heat, nothing. And when I got pregnant with him, I started craving, my ex liked spicy foods, but I didn't. And I started craving, like I would outspice my ex. It was amazing. I still not to the extent when I was pregnant, but some of that remained. But Timothy, as early as age 2, he could eat a whole bag of the flaming hot cheese.
So let me get this right. He loved spicy food so much that it changed her own ability to taste spicy things, that she all of a sudden started eating spicy food, and that he loved it so much as a kid that they all of a sudden decided to get the hottest thing they could find in order to dissuade his behaviors. It's incredible, the story that she is creating around this.
There's a text out there that says you suggested putting hot sauce on his penis. You remember hearing that with the
I remember hearing it, yes.
Do you remember saying those things?
I do not, no, sir.
And once again, the whole gaps in memory thing. So she doesn't remember saying it. She didn't say, there's no way I would have said that. I didn't say that. She doesn't remember it, which is very convenient.
You admit getting frustrated with your child care efforts with Timothy, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Frustrated, discouraged.
Did you ever intend to hurt him?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You raised other children, correct?
Yes, I did.
So one thing that we are seeing is a big, strong reaction when she's saying, no, absolutely not. What we're not seeing is any sort of sadness, regret, remorse, anything like that.
Frustrated, discouraged.
Did you ever intend to hurt him?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You raised other children, correct?
And see, you see the eyebrows furrowed like this. We oftentimes do this when we're concentrating or when we're angry. We certainly don't do that when we're feeling sad.
Yes, I did.
And while Timmy was malnourished, to your knowledge, have any of your other children ever been reported as malnourished?
No, not at all.
Once you discovered that Timothy had passed, and once the police get there, do you tell them the truth?
I was so freaked out. I'm sorry. Honestly, I've got one. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome. Why?
We've certainly seen a lot of crying with no tears this year, haven't we? Once again, if you've seen any of the other videos I've covered on subjects like this, it's not unusual at all that we have people that appear to be sad, that appear to be emotional, but no tears come out. That doesn't mean she doesn't feel sad, but it is questionable that there's no tears being produced.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Why didn't you tell them the truth? Why were you so freaked?
I don't remember what my line of thinking was at the time. I was so I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't.
Were you tired at that point?
I was exhausted. The night before he passed, I had less than an hour of sleep.
Well, she remembers that much. And this is what's so frustrating, is she remembers certain details except for the ones that really matter.
Were you frightened at that point?
Absolutely. I just lost my son.
You need a moment?
I'm okay.
Okay. Were you expecting? Were you?
We've seen this so many times this year. It's just bizarre. Crying with no tears and then dabbing the eyes and seeing if there are tears on the napkin. Watch this right here.
You need a moment?
I'm okay.
Okay. Were you expecting? Was this outcome expected by you?
Absolutely not. No.
So would it be safe to say you were surprised?
I was shocked.
Were you in disbelief initially?
Yes, absolutely.
I do wish and I know that this is her attorney, but I do wish he would ask her how she felt rather than feeding her ways that she felt and just letting her say yes.
Did you intend to hurt Timothy?
No, never.
Did you
Once again, watch her eyes right here.
Did you intend to hurt Timothy?
No,
There's that closing of the eyes. She doesn't like having to respond to this question.
never.
Did you know he was?
And there was also a facial expression of her, I think, once again, exaggerating the emotions.
Did you intend to hurt Timothy?
No, never.
But then her face immediately goes back to the way it was before.
Did you know he was being hurt?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
And that was a much longer eye close. Much harder for her to look at her attorney while answering this question.
Did you know he was being hurt?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
The tactics that you use to first of all, the tactics that you use to discipline Timothy, did they seem extreme or outrageous to you at the time?
No.
You hear how she said that softly. That's to make her seem more gentle. People sometimes do that to make themselves seem a little bit smaller, to seem a little bit like, of course not. How could I possibly do those things? Now we're going to watch some of her interactions with the prosecutor. Now, she had said that she gave him a warm bath after he had ultimately been in a cold bath for several hours.
A warm bath sounds just like, it's just what it sounds like, right? You got him, you took him to the bath, you grew a warm bath for him, and you put him in the bathtub, right?
Yes, sir.
This is hours before he dies, right?
Yes, sir.
You look like that when you put him in the bathtub?
So, as obviously she's reacting as though she's throwing up. Hard to say whether or not she actually is, but it is sort of convenient that this is happening so that people can't see her real reaction to the pictures. She's claiming this is the first time she's seen these. The prosecutor later on disagrees and says that you've seen these before. So it's very interesting that she is reacting in this fashion, particularly when she saw his body and saw all of this as it was happening.
I'm sorry.
Gotta make me a moment.
In fact, you sat in this very courtroom not even a week ago on Friday when we had a hearing about those photographs and looked at those photographs, didn't
I
you?
did not look at them last week, sir.
You didn't look at them last week?
No, sir, I did not.
But you've looked at them before, haven't you?
I think it was at the prelim, and I gagged that day too. It just wasn't as bad.
Didn't throw up, though.
No, it wasn't as bad.
So if there's video from that hearing that we had last week where you thumbed through the photographs, including the autopsy photos without vomiting, do you just not remember that as well?
We didn't have the autopsy. We didn't have those photos over at our table, sir. It won't be on the video, I can promise.
So as they're talking about what they do and don't have on video, it seems like she's starting to process and think about this.
We didn't have the autopsy. We didn't have those photos over at our table, sir.
Because she looks directly at the camera afterward. Because now she has an awareness of the camera. Now she's starting to have to think on her feet.
Those 3 photographs depict your son hours after you supposedly put him in a warm bath. Did he look like that when you put him in the warm bath, but for the fact that he was alive?
I did not look at him, sir. He was 15. I tried to give him his privacy. It may sound lame, but I intentionally look away. That's why Paul did most of his baths, is because he's 15 and I didn't think that was appropriate.
So her claims go back to the idea that she just didn't see the abuse. She just didn't know. How could she possibly know? What's so impressive about the way that she presents some of this information is it's things that are so implausible that she says with a straight face. She doesn't seem to have a strong emotional connection to these things. And so she is able to just say this with a plain face and try to make it sound like The absurd behaviors and the ludicrousness of what she's saying is just normal. Well, I didn't notice all the abuse because I tried not to look at him.
That's why Paul did most of his baths, is because he's 15 and I didn't think that was appropriate.
So you didn't put him in the bathtub.
And there you see big swallows again. She's tucking her chin down a little bit now. We do that when we're starting to feel defensive. So you can see her as the prosecutor's talking to her. That's scaring her. This part right here is something that she maybe feels less confident about. Because if you think about tucking your chin in, it makes a vulnerable part of your neck less vulnerable.
No, he was already in the tub. I just looked.
Did you get him out of the tub?
I don't remember. I think so. Later that night, I would assume so.
Later that night? How long was he in the tub?
Well, night to me is any time after work. So
Okay.
See, most people will stumble on something like that. So he asked her a question that obviously, how long was he in there? Because if you're talking about night, so she slipped up. She said it was night. And then she just, without missing a beat, night's any time after work.
And again, you didn't tell the police officers this when they talked to you about what had happened the night before, did you?
I don't remember. Apparently, I didn't.
Well, so you don't remember what you told the police officers?
I remember part of it, but I mean, if you say I didn't tell them, then I trust your word there.
If you told the police officers that you noticed he was...
See how she flipped it there? I'll trust your word because I don't remember these things. So I'm being nice in that I'm showing you trust.
So you don't remember what you told the police officers?
I remember part of it, but I mean, if you say I didn't tell them, then I trust your word there. Yes, sir.
But you had to drag him there. Why was that?
Well, dragging, I mean, that could be anywhere from grabbing a hold of an arm and because someone's not being cooperative. That can be a range of things, sir. So I don't know what I was referring to there.
So with a straight face, she's able to use this defense of, I don't know, over and over again. I don't remember. And once you get used to doing something, it becomes easier and easier. So over the course of this, it's not that she isn't feeling anything as she talks about these things. It doesn't mean that she's not getting anxious or that she doesn't like having to respond to these questions. But I think that once you get used to doing that, and once you've created this narrative of I can't remember things, it gets much easier to do that over and over again.
And did you push him down onto the ground so that he was laying and facing the camera?
If that's what it shows, then yes, sir.
And did you position his face towards the camera?
If that's what it shows,
And did you tell him that he owes you the biggest apology on the face of the earth and then maybe he can get out to go to the bathroom?
If that's what it shows, sir, I don't remember.
And did you...
So if you think about the narrative she's trying to create by doing this, it is that I'm a victim. That's the hope is I can't remember these things. You're saying I did all these things and they must be true, but I don't remember doing any of this stuff. The goal and the repeated part of this narrative is that she is a victim in this situation and she is just a bystander that doesn't remember any of these things. And how could she possibly have done this? How awful. How could she possibly be responsible for something she doesn't even remember doing? That's the narrative I think that she's trying to create.
Turned a little while later because he had rolled over away from the camera so that you couldn't see him on camera.
If that's what it shows, I don't remember any of this.
And did you tell him you don't need to open your mouth every time you breathe, dummy, and then hold his mouth shut?
No, I did the locks to protect him because he could have killed himself eating the chicken nuggets. I didn't put the locks on after he did the hamburger or the bacon, but the chicken nuggets, it was raw chicken.
Chicken nuggets are cooked, aren't they? They're pre-cooked.
Are they? I didn't even think about that.
But it's okay if he has a frozen pizza roll or two if he sits up, right?
Yes, sir.
How incredible. I mean, what an unspeakably absurd line of logic to suggest that she doesn't know that chicken nuggets are pre-cooked. This is somebody who is working on becoming an attorney. This is someone who, according to her, graduated magna cum laude or summa cum laude or something like that. Point being, clearly she's now acting like this is the first time that she has thought that chicken nuggets were pre-cooked and that the bacon and the beef were raw, and that it's mind-blowing. But once again, she says it with a straight face, which is what's so impressive.
I was trying to teach him not to sneak. He snuck. It wasn't just food. He would sneak in the garage. He would sneak toys. He snuck around and messed with his baby brother's homeschooling materials. I've got like flashcards and stuff for him. He messed with those and got them all out of order.
March 4th is around the time that you acknowledged that he was in zip cuffs. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but I don't think we clarified your final text message where you said, you know what, we will start cutting off ends once they are tight, so he can't do that. Is that one of the can't remember texts too?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, she's speaking more quietly, trying to make herself seem non-threatening. This behavior continues.
Just so we're clear, it wasn't sneaking frozen chicken nuggets or a bag of chips. It was eating the crust of what sounds to be an already half-eaten burger or an eaten burger. And your response to that is, go make him throw up, please.
If that's what it says, and the crime was, again, it's being sneaky and deceitful. It was never about it wasn't about the food. It was because he every time we turned around, he was sneaking something. It wasn't just food. He snuck toys, like I said.
I think this goes to show how much her empathy lacks her ability to connect with others. If she thinks that this is a cogent argument, if she thinks that a jury is truly going to sympathize with this, that no, we weren't trying to keep him from eating, we were trying to keep him from sneaking things. So sure, making him throw up, not allowing him to eat chips or to starve him, that's legitimate because they were trying to teach him a lesson. It's remarkable.
An annoyance for you, and he wasn't even a human being in your eyes anymore.
That is absolutely not true.
The quivering voice with no tears, once again. So we'll go ahead and stop here. What we saw today was someone who is portraying themselves as a perpetual victim. That's the narrative. Not only are they a victim of circumstance in every way possible, they're also a victim in the fact that they can't remember any of these things. And so I know that there's the claim of post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't know whether she has that or not, but what I can tell you is that post-traumatic stress disorder does not cause the type of memory gaps that she is claiming. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't mean maybe she has some other kind of memory disorder, but post-traumatic stress disorder really does not explain the gaps in memory that she consistently says that she has. So what we saw over the course of this testimony was someone who was saying that they are the victim in this situation. This was a son whose behavior was out of control. She was responsible for taking care of him, but she didn't have the means or the time or the energy. That he engaged in all of these behaviors, and it must have been her other son's fault that he in fact was tortured and abused, and these various things were ordered. After watching this, I'm guessing the jury is not going to feel particularly sympathetic, despite the fact that that is her claim, is that she should be sympathized, that she is a victim here. I don't think that the jury will see it that way, but that has yet to be seen. I'll be very curious to see how it all pans out as the verdict comes. If you have any other videos you want me to do, or there's other elements of this trial that you want me to analyze, please let me know in the comments below. Last thing before we get finished up is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.